Hello KonnectzIT family, welcome to KonnectzIT tutorials. Today in this video, I'll be explaining you an important feature or a module inside KonnectzIT, that is an API module, which is an inbuilt feature. And we are getting a lot of requests to explain about API module, as this feature actually brings a very robust, powerful features inside KonnectzIT, where there are a lot of use cases you can achieve using API module, but we will try to make it as simple as it looks like. I'll just give it a try on that. So let's dig on to API module, so how it actually works. So I'm going to show you this screen where KonnectzIT basically supports two type of authentication methods, we can say. So authentication methods are like, whenever we actually get an access to other application, so we have to authorize ourselves with the link. So that is the that is where by passing our API keys, or like by passing our secret token, so we are getting access to that particular application. So how we can do that? So there are two types of authentication methods basically, KonnectzIT actually follows. So that is basic auth method, and the other one is API key or an bearer token based authentication method. So let me show you how we can actually do this using KonnectzIT. So I'm going to take the first method as basic auth method. Let us straight away dig into start by creating connect. So I'm going to create the connect, and I will select a trigger as swipe pages. So as it is an webhook enabled app, so I'm going to select copy the URL and paste inside swipe pages. So this is just to get the data from swipe pages. So it is being completed. So now I'm going to capture the webhook response and fill in all my details. So I'm click on submit. So this will send data to KonnectzIT. So yes, we received the data. So now I'm going to show you an API module. So as I'm going to take this module as bearer or an basic authorization method, so I'm going to use WooCommerce for that, because a lot of people actually uses WooCommerce. WooCommerce actually supports basic authorization method. So what is mean by basic authorization is like we will be passing the credentials. So this is an WooCommerce API, so you can see that. So this is an API documentation. So for each app there will be an API documentation, and they will provide how you can actually pass the data to that particular app. So in this particular app you can see that, so this is a basic authorization method. So usually they will give us -u, and whatever the things like for example, if there is an API key or an your secret code or a token, so we will be passing inside the URL. So KonnectzIT supports the method. So this is a URL basically. So you can see that. So this is your domain name, and this is a URL. So you can see here also, and the consumer's key and consumer secret is the things you have to pass it inside the URL itself. So that is itself. So we are not passing anything in our header, so we are actually passing everything in the URL itself. So that is basically, so that is called as that is how we actually handle the basic authorization inside KonnectzIT. So we are going to pass the consumer key and the consumer secret inside the URL for basic authorization. So this is the URL, and we will be appending the consumer key and consumer secret inside the URL itself. So this is something, it looks like this. So you can see that. So this is my domain name, that is potrocky.com, and I'll be using the URL. So this is the URL specified inside HTTP method of WooCommerce, and the consumer key I am just appending using question mark. I am giving the consumer key and the value, and also the ampersand consumer secret and the value. So this everything itself in the URL. So I'm going to choose this as my endpoint URL inside KonnectzIT. So this is the endpoint URL I'm going to paste inside like endpoint URL for basic authorization. So whenever I going to do a basic authorization, so this is how we will be passing. We are not going to pass anything inside our header, so everything we are passing inside our URL itself. So that is the steps we are following for basic authorization. And when it comes to the HTTP method, so we are going to use all this. KonnectzIT actually support all these methods, so get, post, put and delete. So as a name itself actually tell you like what exactly the action you are performing. So if I'm actually getting any data from like the other app, for example, if I'm getting a data from WooCommerce, so I'm going to use as get method. And if I am actually posting the data, so that means I am sending a data from KonnectzIT to that particular another app. In here in this case is WooCommerce, so I'm going to use post. And similarly the put and the delete. So delete itself, it as it, the name itself is suggests, so we are actually deleting the record. So this is how all the HTTP method which KonnectzIT supports. So now in this particular case I'm going to use as post method. So I'm just sending a data from KonnectzIT to WooCommerce. So I'm going to use the post method. And the endpoint URL, as I already explained, so we are going to pass, as it is a basic authorization, we are going to pass our consumer secret and the value inside the endpoint URL itself. So that is based on the API documentation. You can see that this will be the URL and we are passing our secret and the key inside the URL itself based on basic authentication. So we are going to follow this particular method. So now my URL everything is ready. So now I have to pass the parameters. So parameters, I can pass the two types of parameters inside KonnectzIT, that is an header parameter and the body parameter. So and as it already explained, for basic authorization we are not going to pass any kind of an header. So we are only pass the body parameters. So body parameters are the values basically. So you can see that, so these are all the body parameters, it is there. So you can use all these items, so or mandatory items to pass this kind of an body so inside the KonnectzIT. So I'm going to copy this parameters and paste inside body parameters. You can see that I'm not going to use header, so I'm just using the body parameters. And I can click on plus icon to pass more parameters. So these are all the optional things, so which are all mandatory fields, you can pass those. And you can also pass everything, so basically all this. So I'm going to use mandatory stuffs here. So I'm just going to use 3 parameters as of at this moment, just for a demo purpose. So this is how the parameters will be look like. So now I have to pass the value for this parameters. So this is just a key, I just passed it. And now I'll be passing the value, so I can type it or I can connect from the another app. So I'm going to take the code as just my name, and discount type as, so this is an like basically percentage, I'm going to take it. So and the discount percentage, what will be, I'll be taking it as 20%. So now I'll be clicking on test and review. So this will actually send as per our API module. So this will be a post method, so this will send a data from KonnectzIT to WooCommerce and with this particular values. So this is my WooCommerce coupon list. So I can see, so this is the last list. I will just refresh it. So you can see guys, so this is my WooCommerce list. So now I am going to click on test and review. This will actually post the data from KonnectzIT to WooCommerce using basic authentication method. So now I will click on test and review. Yes, the data has been sent via API, and also we receive this additional attributes. You can see that where we will be getting all this data. So that is the ID, code, and the amount which we passed, and the date created, discount type, and if there is any description and usage count. All these items will be passed. This is the response we are getting it from WooCommerce once our data has been posted inside the WooCommerce. So now let's go to WooCommerce and refresh our page. Yes guys, so you can see that the name, that is a percentage discount, and the coupon amount will be the 20% discount. So this is how you can post the data inside WooCommerce using our API module, that is basic authentication method. So I'm going to save or publish this connect. So this is a basic authentication. So we actually done as per our these things. So now I'm going to explain you about, there are, as I already told, that there are two types of authentication methods. So what I shown now is basic authorization or authentication method. Now I'm going to show you API key or a bearer authentication, token based authentication method. So this is just as same as like basic authentication, but we will be passing our API key or an consumer token or an API token inside our header. So whereas in basic authorization we were passing that in our URL itself, but in our API key or a bearer authentication method, so we are going to pass those values inside the header. So now I am going to show you by taking an example of InstaMojo. So let's go ahead and create a connect. So I just selected InstaMojo as my trigger, and whenever there is a new sale happen, I will copy the URL and paste inside InstaMojo, and I will click on done. So yes, I will just preview that link. So this is my payment page. So I'm going to capture my webhook response, and I'll be paying by placing all my details. I'm going to use as any credit card option. So now the transaction is completed, whether it is when transaction is failed. So but we will be receiving a data inside KonnectzIT. So you can see that. So we actually received the data with the status as failed, and also with the payment ID. So we got the payment ID as well. So now we will use this data, and by using the payment ID, so we will fetch the details from InstaMojo. That is like I'm going to use our API module again, but now I'm going to fetch the details from InstaMojo. So that for that I'm going to use the HTTP method as get, because I'm getting a data from InstaMojo to KonnectzIT. So I'm going to use the HTTP method as get. So now comes the endpoint URL. So as I already explained, so this is the API documentation of InstaMojo, where I'm just choose the action as get payment details. So and you can see that this is an URL, and I will be passing the API key as we already know that. So we are going to passing the API key and the token inside our header. So this is on the based on the documentation of InstaMojo. So this is how we can use API authentication inside KonnectzIT. So now I'm going to take this URL. So this is the URL. Basically I will going to leave the ID part, because ID part we are going to send it inside the parameters, that is our body parameters. So I will be selecting this as my endpoint URL. So you can see that. So I just copied till payments. I just left the ID parts because I'm going to set the parameters inside the body. So this is how the API or bearer token authentication method works. So I'll set the parameters, and here I'm going to use the parameters, header parameters. You can see that API key. So I just copy that API key and also the API token. So this I'm going to pass inside my header, and the body I'm going to pass the ID. So that will be our payment ID. So this is just an ID name, so I'm going to pass it as ID. So I will be taking this and I will be passing it as ID. So and I will click on OK. So you can see that API key and API token I'm just passing in the header. So this is for an API key or an bearer or token based authentication. So we are going to follow this methods where we are passing our parameters in header, whereas for basic authorization we are actually passing it in the URL itself. So now I will click on OK for this. So this will result or the values over here. I'm going to use the payment ID which I received from InstaMojo, or I can also have an option to type the same thing. So I'm going to connect it from InstaMojo and header and API token, so that I will be finding this in InstaMojo. So I'll go to back to dashboard and it will be there in APIs and plugins. So this is our API key. I will copy this and paste the API key and also the auth token. So I'll copy this and paste inside the auth token. So this will actually, as per our method, so this is the method. So we are actually getting a data from InstaMojo by using this endpoint URL and also by using this API key and the payment ID. So now we will click on test and review. So this will go into the payment, fetch the payment details as you know. So I'm going to click on test and review. Yes, the data has been get from the API module from InstaMojo. So everything will be available inside this plus additional parameters. You can see that the module is success and the payment is like it is fetch the IDs from InstaMojo. All the payment details will be present inside these additional parameters. So I'm going to use this particular ID. So I'm going to take the payment list. So this you can see that. So as in the payment 0, so this is our ID, payment ID, and the status is failed. So and the currency and the amount and the buyer name. So you can see that, guys. So all these details will be available over here. So I can use these modules for my additional automation. So I can select this particular module attributes and I can use the same thing for our additional automation. So this is how using an ID. So I fetched all these payment details from InstaMojo using an API module and the get method inside the KonnectzIT. So this is the two types of authentication. That is, one is basic auth method where we are actually passing our token and key inside the URL, and the other thing is an API key or a bearer token method, so where we will be passing our secrets and API key inside the header part. So hope you guys like this video, and if you guys have any questions on this particular API module, so do let us know, guys, and we will be happy to help in the comment section below, because this will actually help a lot of automators like you guys getting their questions solved. So it will be very good like if you can drop in the comment section below so that we can answer it there itself. So this will going to help a lot of people when they are actually using the API module inside KonnectzIT. This module is very robust. Of course it is bit technical, but the thing is this will add more value, so you can connect n number of applications using this particular two types of methods. Like you can say that like we can actually connect more than 1,000 application using this API module. So hope you guys like this video, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Have a great day.